What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Right out of the gate, I want to say this is probably in my top 5 best sci-fi books of all time. I shouldn't have been surprised. I've read like 3 Dan Simmons books up to this point. I've read Drood, I've read Song of Kali, and I've also read The Terror, which was made into a Netflix series. You might have seen it. It's the one where they're on a ship that's like wrecked in the ice and they're being hunted by this strange beast in the Arctic. And yeah, I haven't actually watched the series, but it did look pretty good. Anyway, all that's to say, I'm familiar with Dan Simmons and I really like his writing, but up to this point, somehow I had never read Hyperion, which is like the main book he was known for, the Hyperion Cantos. At one point, I had this book. I had a different copy, and I lent it to a friend to read, and I don't know what happened to it. So this is the second time I bought this book. But man, what a crazy universe that Dan Simmons created. There's so many literary references in this book. First of all, it's structured kind of like Canterbury Tales, where these people are going on a pilgrimage and they're kind of telling stories to each other as they go along towards their destination. So there's 7 pilgrims on this journey. There's the priest, the soldier, the poet, the scholar, the starship captain, the detective, and the consul. These 7 people are traveling to the planet of Hyperion to visit these time tombs, which is this weird kind of place where time flows backwards, and there's this kind of malevolent demon thing called the Shrike that just brutally eviscerates anyone who gets close. And so basically these 7 people are drawn together on this dangerous journey to get to the time tombs on Hyperion, and as they go along, they're telling each other why they were chosen to go on this pilgrimage. So it's a really interesting structure for a book to have, and it starts off with the priest. He tells his story, and immediately you're just thrust into this strange world of weird, it's science fiction, but Dan Simmons is really good at creating like this existential dread, like this horror of what may happen. So by the time I got to the end of the priest section, I was like totally hooked. There's really not a whole lot I can say about the individual pilgrim stories without, getting into spoiler territory, but each one is really unique. Each one explores like a different genre altogether. One's like a noir detective story, another one's like this tragic, I don't even want to get into it. So as each pilgrim tells their story, you just get this ever widening view of the galaxy and of the different factions that are all interested in what's going on Hyperion, but they're going at it from different angles. It's like each one just improves the story so much and levels up the whole thing, and by the end you're just like, holy shit, what did I just read? The characters are amazing. Some of the best characters I've read, and sci-fi struggles with characters a lot of the time. They're just some randos that happen to be involved in like, space battles or whatever. In this story, everyone is completely fleshed out. Dan Simmons has this really great way of giving you exposition without over explaining anything, so you're not, getting real bored hearing every single detail. But he'll like plant this little seed early in the story, and you're kind of sitting there like, okay, what is that? Are you going to explain this anymore? And then 200 pages later, he somehow fits that back into the story and explains everything in a way that's just really smooth. And I really don't have enough positive things to say about this book. If you're even a little bit interested in science fiction, you got to read this one. This is probably one of the best universes in terms of like world building that I've come across in a while. Incredible scenarios, incredible characters and backstories, everything you would want out of science fiction. You know, there's AI, there's, you know, humanity is exploring the galaxy, all that cool stuff. And then a lot of emotional moments, a lot of philosophical quandaries and things. Yeah, I don't want to give away anything else other than like what's on the back of the book. Another interesting thing about this is that by the time you get to the end of the story, that is when the pilgrims are basically reaching their destination. There's pretty much a big cliffhanger at the end, which I'm assuming will lead directly into the sequel, which is called The Fall of Hyperion. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading that. This one gets 5 stars. Definitely the best book I've read so far this year, and like I said, it's up there with the best books I've ever read in this genre. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'm going to be doing more reviews, so if you like book reviews, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.